In the 1950s and 60s especially, the United States was actively engaged in interfering with governments that it felt were inimical to its interests. One of the most notorious cases was the overthrow of the democratically elected President Jacobo Arbenz in 1954. Guatemala already had a checkered history. In 1944, the longtime dictator and U.S. ally, Jorge Ubico, was overthrown. Juan José Arevalo was elected on a progressive platform. A few years later, the main presidential candidate, Francisco Arana, was assassinated. Arbenz then stepped in and was elected. He went even farther than Arevalo in favor of liberalization of labor laws, legitimizing political parties, and reforming the agrarian sector. Under the new law, portions of uncultivated land were expropriated in return for compensation and redistributed to poor agricultural workers. This helped some 500,000 people, most of whom were indigenous. However, all of these reforms were not to the liking of the all-powerful United Fruit Company, which had a virtual monopoly on the banana trade in Guatemala, Costa Rica, and Honduras. This in turn led to the pejorative term banana republics. United Fruit Company then did what any massively powerful multinational company would do. It lobbied the United States government. The U.S., for its part, was worried that Guatemala was turning communist, or at least leaning in that direction. Harry Truman authorized Operation PB Fortune to topple Arbenz in 1952, but that went nowhere. President Dwight D. Eisenhower, pushed by Secretary of State John Foster Dulles and his CIA head Allen Dulles, then authorized Operation PB Success. The CIA funded and trained 480 men led by Guatemalan officer Carlos Castillo Armas. On June 18, 1954, Castillo Armas's force invaded Guatemala. A radio station broadcast anti-government propaganda, and there were bombings of Guatemala City. Despite this, the invading forces flailed militarily. However, the psyops and the fear of a U.S. invasion intimidated the Guatemalan army, which then turned against Arbenz. Arbenz then resigned just 9 days later on June 27th. Castillo Armas was installed as president, which began a quick return to dictatorship. He banned opposition parties, imprisoned political opponents, and reversed the social changes made by Arevalo and Arbenz. This would ultimately lead to 4 decades of civil war. As David Jickling, who worked for USAID in Guatemala in the 1960s, told ADST, the previous government was a communist in the sense that it was committed to social reform to helping